Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Covenant Eyes podcast for ministry leaders. I am Karen Potter with Covenant Eyes, and I'm joined today with Brandon Clark. Hey, Brandon, how's it going over there?
I'm doing so good, Karen. I'm very excited for our interview today here on the Covenant Eyes podcast. We have a special treat for all of our listeners.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and jump in because I am a huge fan of today's guest. I'm going to date myself a little bit here being 44, but definitely grew up as a fan of Kirk Cameron and his work as Mike Seaver. That was one of my favorite shows. But now he is doing some amazing things for faith and for family. And we're going to dive into that today, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're pleased to welcome Kirk Cameron, who, as you mentioned, was star of the show, the hit sitcom Growing Pains. Also, I was born in the 90s, so that was, after my time. I first came upon Kirk in Fireproof, and that movie was a movie that really changed my life, actually, and made me focus on things that matter, and eventually, even doing the love dare on my own wife, and trying to heal our marriage. So, we're very excited. Kirk has been doing some amazing work. We're excited to have him on with us today to talk about this work. And we definitely want to leave time at the end to promote a brand new movie that everybody listening must go see. I can't put it in any other way. This is a must-see movie. So let's get right into it. Kirk, thanks so much for being on with us today.
Hey, man, great to talk with you both. Karen and Brandon, thanks for having me on the program.
One of the things that
sports car, because
yeah, go ahead.
We've got a bit of a delay here. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to say that I've gone a little bit rogue today. All of the connectivity at my house has gone haywire, and so I'm actually in my car at the top of a hill, connecting through my personal hotspot on my phone through my laptop. So I think this is just kind of perfect.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm actually having the same problem. I'm running off a jetpack today. Satan apparently didn't want us to get out and promote this movie. So we're just going to overcome that challenge today. So I'm super excited to have you, Kirk. Thanks for joining us.
Excited to talk with you guys about Lifemark.
Yeah. Well, let's definitely dive into Lifemark. The timing of this movie could not be more perfect. I mean, wow, a God thing, totally. Would you give us a little background on the movie itself and just tell our listeners a little bit about it?
Yeah, I would love to. So Lifemark is a brand new movie that's coming out on September 9th. It's the first time that the Kendrick Brothers and I have worked together on a film since Fireproof. And if you talk to anyone who has seen it, it's a very emotional, inspiring film that is pro-abundant life. It is pro-family, pro-forgiveness, pro-reconciliation, and new beginnings, and so much more. It's based on a true story about an 18-year-old girl who changes her mind on the abortion table. She gives birth to her son and hides the pregnancy for 9 months. And then she first hides the pregnancy, then she gives birth to her son and she places him up for adoption. And 19 years later, she reaches out to him and he agrees to meet with her. She thinks he probably hates her guts for abandoning him at birth. And the truth is, the opposite is the case. David wants to meet the woman who was the hero in his life. He loves his adoptive parents, but he wants to thank the woman that gave him life and this amazing family. And it's about the power of one choice and how it impacts countless numbers of lives. It's about the preciousness of life in the womb and the beauty of adoption.
Yeah, this movie is, I can't say enough. I think I could actually count how many times I didn't cry versus how many times I did cry. And
I know, right?
It would be in favor of the times I did cry, because it's just such a beautiful movie as you're describing. And, I think this speaks to a larger issue here, and that's just life in general. We face so many challenges in life. At Covenant Eyes, right, we specifically focus on the lives being destroyed by pornography. In this movie, there's a subtlety to the lives that are destroyed by abortion. Can you talk about, Kirk, just the beauty of life and What is our culture missing in that conversation?
Well, I have a bit of an unfair advantage because I am the father of 6 children, and 4 of my children are adopted. They're the most beautiful, wonderful human beings
Mm,
in my life, next to my wife, who is also an adopted child. And think about this, because they were adopted, they were all one doctor appointment away from existing. And if my wife had not been born, either would our 2 natural born children. They wouldn't exist either. So life is precious, and life begins in the womb. And adoption is a beautiful option and solution to the great pro-life, pro-choice debate. We've got people that are just angry. I mean, fiercely angry, mad over this Roe v. Wade decision. But this is an issue of the sacredness of life, and how do we deal with difficult situations by addressing it with the motivation of love, not just love for the birth mom, but also love for the birth father, and a sense of compassion and protection for the child who has a future ahead of him or her, and the countless numbers of couples all across the nation and the world who would love to have children and start a family and be parents but are unable to. And Lifemark shows this beautiful solution to a difficult situation that doesn't just solve a problem for 2 people, but actually uh, enriches life for countless numbers of people. And it's all a true story. So we couldn't have even written a script that would have come close to as good as Lifemark is. We just told the story the way that it actually happened.
It's such a beautiful movie, and I do want to encourage all of our listeners to make sure you get groups in your church and in your little circles in your community to go see this. It is such a beautiful tribute to life and to the solutions that are out there. I think we don't talk about that enough. Kirk, you know, I have to bring up the fact that you were in the Left Behind series. That was like one of my favorite series when I was an early Christian. Talk to me a little bit about what it was like to work on that movie. And then now in this day and age to kind of see some things that make you go, hmm.
So I was excited to be in the first 3 Left Behind movies. That was when I was a brand new Christian, and I thought, wow, this is really exciting. We got to share the gospel with people, and they did a reboot of the first Left Behind movie with Nicolas Cage, and I was left behind in that production. I don't know if they're going to do any more. Probably not, but that's okay. I had a great time making those movies, and contrary to what a lot of people are saying, history tells me that we've been in far worse times than we're in right now. Here we are on the internet. We're talking about a movie about life, about the gospel, about family, and this incredible country that we live in that gives us these liberties and freedoms. But there were times in history where Christians were being burned alive on a stake, fed to lions. We had no religious liberty, no political liberty, no economic freedom. And so I think the downturns that we're seeing in our country right now, morally and spiritually, economically, they're just exposing a faulty system. People's eyes are opening up, saying this stuff isn't working. We need to get back to the biblical values that made America the freest, strongest, most blessed nation and most generous nation on the earth. I think this is a tee up for revival. When the family
Amen.
of faith wakes up out of its apathy, complacency, and slumber, and we turn our hearts back to God again.
Amen
Yeah.
to that. And I think your movie, Lifemark, actually fits perfectly into that, because that is going to drive so much revival in this conversation about adoption and how we can address this. And I'm so excited to see what God does with this movie, because I think we live in a really unique period of time right now where life finally has an advocate. Like, we are finally, as a country, saying enough is enough.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Karen and Brandon. What do you think about this? this is obviously a movie that celebrates and tells the story of a woman's choice of adoption over abortion. But how do you think this movie might make women who have experienced an adoption feel after watching it?
Hmm. That's a really good question.
I think I think it's really affirming, Kirk.
Yeah.
The way that it lays it out and the beauty of that. I'm guessing that, I'm obviously not an adoptive mom, but I could see how there could be a fear and a worry about, what's going to happen if I do this adoption. Who is my kid or child going to end up with, and stuff like that. And so I think to have this story play out, and like you said, it's a true story. Like, you can't make this up. It's true. It's so affirming to not just life of the child, but life of the adoptive mother, and choosing that and recognizing that God has this in the palm of his hands, and he will bring good out of, as potentially terrible situations, depending on how the child was conceived.
Yeah. I
That's
think
right.
I think also, women that may have chosen this path of giving their child up to adoption, they may reach out to that child now, because I know a lot of people who have been adopted want to meet their birth parent, as they become adults. And wow, the beauty and the forgiveness and the reunitement of that process, it may empower some
Mm.
women to actually take those next steps and maybe connect, if allowed, with their child that they gave up for adoption, which could
Yeah,
bring some
and
healing.
yeah, I agree with you, Karen and Brandon. I also think that for couples or individual men and women who have actually had an abortion in their past, I
Mm.
think this could be a movie that brings healing and that can bring wholeness and can bring a sense of uh, a way to offload some of the guilt and some of the pain that they dragging around with them. One of the great things about the Lifemark movie being one part of the Fathom events distribution system is that there's a portion after the movie's over where we have a panel of people, me and the Kendrick brothers, along with a couple of other people, including a woman who has been on both sides of the abortion issue. She has had an abortion in her past, and she talks about how she has found
Mm.
healing, how she's found forgiveness, how God has taken the brokenness of her past and rearranged the pieces to make for a beautiful picture. And she is so affirming of life today, and her past has not defined her. So I'm excited for people who have experienced abortion, people who are thinking about adoption, people who are in the midst of adoption, looking for encouragement. I think everyone is going to find something in this movie. It's got heart, it's got humor, and lots of action.
Yes.
Skydiving, cliff jumping, ATV racing, high school wrestling, and knife throwing. Uh, it's
Does
it's
it get
just
better than
awesome.
that? It doesn't. Kirk, I should say too, for our listeners, this movie comes out September 9th. So, if you're listening to this now and it's the end of August or beginning of September, this is an opportunity to go ahead and get those tickets now so that you can be ready. You can go to the premiere, and let's show the now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kirk, but oftentimes when movies come out, they come out in a limited number of theaters, and then depending
Yeah,
on how it does in the opening weekend, then it'll spread. Is that the case with this
that's
one?
exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. We're going to be in 1,400 theaters, which is great. That's everywhere, and we're going to be in the movie theaters for at least 5 nights. This is something that the Fathom events system has never done before, but they're opening the floodgates because the response has been so strong to Lifemark. And this is the Kendrick brothers. I mean, they made Fireproof,
Yeah.
they made War Room, they made Courageous, they made Facing the Giants. And this is the first time we've made a movie together since Fireproof. So we're pulling out all of the stops, and the timing of this could not be more perfect. I mean, Roe versus Wade just got thrown out
Mm,
2 months ago, or 2 months before the release of the movie. I
yeah.
mean, we didn't plan this. We started Lifemark 2.5 years ago, and it got delayed because of COVID. Now it's coming out right on the heels of Roe v. Wade being overturned. So it's perfect timing. And I suggest people get your tickets early at lifemarkmovie.com because once those limited numbers of seats in 5 days of theaters are filled up, you may not get to see the movie unless they open it up to more nights and more theaters. And that happens when all the tickets are sold early. So if we want more people to see it, if you want to make sure you get a seat, go get your tickets now at lifemarkmovie.com.
And we'll be sure
Yes.
to put that in the show notes, that link in the show notes as well. Kirk, I want to switch gears for just a moment, because it's clear to see that your work, from Fireproof, the Left Behind series, transitioning to Lifemark and everything in between, is really focused on faith and family. So you have like a particular passion for this. And earlier in our interview, you were talking about it's time for the awakening of America. And, we have a particular passion for families at Covenant Eyes because we see how lives are destroyed by pornography. And you have a particular passion for families through your American Campfire revival, your newest documentary, The Homeschool Awakening. Can you talk about, just for parents listening or even church leaders listening today, since it's a ministry leaders podcast, the importance of taking our families back, protecting our families, reawakening families to the dangers that they face in America?
Yeah, yeah. I was just reading one of my favorite authors this morning, and he was reminding me that that the family is the institution that God created, and it is his primary instrument of advancing the kingdom of God on earth. It's not even the church. It's not even civil government. There is a kingdom of darkness that will advance on the earth if we create a vacuum by allowing the family to falter. If the family falters, the mission that God gave to humanity to be fruitful, to multiply, to fill the earth and take dominion, rule over all of his creation, will diminish. And that's what we're seeing in our country right now. If you want to get to the root of why the freedom of the fruit of freedom is rotting, why our morality is declining and our spiritual fervor is waning, you just got to get down and look at the root of the family. When the family falls apart, everything crumbles. As goes the family, there goes the nation. And of course, at the heart of family is marriage. And so we need men and women of great faith and character to remember that you're never a better Christian than you are a husband. You are never a better Christian than you are a wife or a mother or a father. You can't split your life up such a way that says, oh, I'm a great pastor. I've memorized all these Bible verses, or I'm great at work. Man, I can sell anything to anybody. I'm really good in all these. But listen, if you lose it in the family, you've lost the battle. And we all make mistakes. There are no perfect parents. There are no perfect spouses. But we've got to recapture the importance of the health of the family, because that's the reason the earth exists. It's for us to be able to advance the kingdom of heaven on earth. That's what Jesus said. May your kingdom come, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And God has chosen the family to be his primary institution to do that.
Just wrap it back around to this incredible movie that all of our ministry leaders, all of our churchgoers, everyone listening to this podcast, you need to check out the website. And the website again is lifemark.com. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Lifemarkmovie.com.
No,
Lifemark Movie.
It's Lifemark. That's right. Lifemarkmovie.com.
Okay, lifemarkmovie.com. It'll be in the show notes. Make sure you take that link, share it with all your friends, get it out on social media. Let's show the world, by spending our money where our hearts are, support a movie like this, get your friends and family involved, and let's really make a difference, because we do speak with what we spend our money on. So it is important that we support this effort. And Kirk, I cannot tell you enough how grateful we are that you joined us today to share the news about the movie. Brandon, any takeaways from today's conversation as we wrap it up?
Yeah, there's so many different things, but I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is life is beautiful. Life is so beautiful, from womb to tomb. And, just recognizing that pro-life is not just about a child. I mean, a child certainly is very important, but, pro-life goes so far beyond that. It's just a good reminder, especially with this Lifemark movie coming out, that every life matters. And you can see that just in Kirk's own family, right? With adoption and how, if he and his wife wouldn't be around, they wouldn't have biological children, they wouldn't have adoptive children. Like, it just goes so far beyond, one little movement that it seems like culture tries to pick on the most. So life is beautiful, and we need to remember that and get out and support this movie as much as possible so that it can be in theaters much longer than 5 days. How about you, Karen?
Same, absolutely. We just need to get out there and support the movie that supports the message that we need to be, as Christians resonating all over the US. Like, this should be something that we stand behind and that we're talking about. So with that, Kirk, any last words for our listeners today that you want to share? Any words of encouragement, anything in closing?
Well, I love Kendrick Brothers movies. I remember the first time I saw Facing the Giants, and I went back and saw Flywheel, the early one that they made, and then I got to be in Fireproof, and I saw how that impacted so many marriages. And then God used Courageous with fatherhood and parenting, and then War Room, that prayer is a powerful weapon. And now I believe the Kendricks have come out with their most inspirational movie yet. And I got to make it with them. I got to be in it together with Alex. I played the adoptive father in the movie. So that was super special for me. And I can't wait for people to see it. So thanks for all the help in getting the word out. Again, it's September 9th in theaters. And you can get your tickets at lifemarkmovie.com. And you can even get special discounts if you want to take your whole church, if you want to take your youth group, your men's group, your women's group. So go check it out, and you can watch the trailer and so much more there at the website.
Absolutely. And again, for our listeners, we'll be sure to put those links in the show notes so that you can check that out, including, the Homeschool Awakening and so a couple of the other things that we talked about, because it all works together for God's kingdom, for taking our country back as we look at the way things are currently around us. It's up to us as Christians to start that movement and keep that movement rolling, kind of like the flywheel, right? Just thinking about that
That's
movie.
right.
So Kirk, thanks again so much for being on with us. We'd love to visit with you again in the future. But for now, we'll say goodbye. And thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Covenant Eyes podcast. We'll see you again next time. God bless you.